What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. So let's get into it. So today we're going to take a look at grades for our offensive linemen. We're at the bye week, so it's kind of time to kind of sit back, catch our breath, and kind of take a look at some of the things that are right with this team and some of the things that are wrong with this team, and hopefully how they can kind of fix it moving forward. So we'll go with our starters. We'll throw one extra guy in there because that guy has played a little bit of significant snaps. So we're going to grade 6 players. So we'll start on the left. So we'll start with Tyler Guyton. He's a rookie. He has faced a gauntlet. He's faced Myles Garrett. He's faced Cam Jordan. He's faced Matabuke. He's faced Kevin Thibodeau. And he's faced some of Aiden Hutchinson. Oh, actually, no. Actually, let's take a step back. I forgot. Guyton didn't even play that game that we got destroyed in. So those are the 4 guys he's faced. So being that he's a rookie, I'm not going to grade him extra harshly as I would a veteran, right? So I'm not going to grade him like he's Tyler Smith or like he's Zach Martin, or like he's Terrence Steele. So I grade Tyler Guyton as I want to give him a C. Not a C minus, not a C plus, just a C. Straight up like a 75. If this was Madden, he'd be a 75 overall. One of the reasons I give him that is because I'm taking into account the totality, right? With offensive linemen, it's very easy to just be down on them the moment you see them miss a block and your quarterback gets sacked, right? Because those are the highlight plays. Whenever you see Matabuke smacking Dak or Kayvon Thibodeau almost getting to Dak and Dak having to throw it away and he's on his heels, it's easy to say, man, Tyler Guyton sucks, right? And maybe he does suck sometimes, but that's a question for another day. What I'm trying to say is offensive linemen play anywhere between, if it's a low scoring, highly punting game, figure 50, 55 plays. If it's a higher scoring game, or at least a game where your offense is moving the ball, more 70 to 75 plays, right? So if Tyler Guyton gives up and he has a horrible game, he might give up 8 pressures and 2 sacks, which means the other 62 plays in that game, he was fine, But that might not necessarily be true too, because you got to take into account the run blocking snaps. So, maybe you get a handful of run blocking snaps that are pretty terrible as well. But all in all, still, let's say he's bad on 10 run blocking snaps and 8 pass blocking sets, and that's 18 out of the 70 plays. You still had 52 plays that he did his job, right? So still, more often than not, even it's the NFL, so even bad offensive linemen are still doing their job most of the time. So I give Tyler Guyton a C plus because I do see some of the things that made him a first round pick. I see his length. I see his athleticism. When he gets his technique correct, he's okay. The problem with Tyler Guyton is he's inconsistent with his technique, right? There'll be plays where you see he gets off his pass set, he gets his punch out, he gets his hands inside on the breastplate of the rusher, and he's able to set and anchor and do pretty well. But then there's other plays where you'll see his head gets extended, or his punch is off, or his hands are on the outside of the rusher, and then that's where you get your holding calls, or you get your rusher when his head is extended, beating him on a swim move, and he's trying to drive the rusher past the quarterback, and he might not be able to. So the things that I see are correctable, right? They come with experience, they come with time, they come because he's a rookie, right? It'll get better as he goes. But as of right now, C plus. So now let's move on to Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith, I give him an A. I think he's played tremendous. I did see him on the ground quite a few times in the Baltimore Ravens game, probably about a good solid 5 times. And he did have a little bit of trouble in the Detroit Lions game, but he was easily your best offensive lineman in that game. Like, it wasn't even close. So I give him an A because I feel like He's probably taken 300 to 400 snaps this year so far, and he's probably gotten beat a handful. You know, maybe two handfuls if you're really feeling frisky. So to have out of 300 to 400 pass sets to have 10 bad reps, that's not bad at all. The only problem is when you have an inconsistent guy to the left of you like Tyler Guyton and you're maybe trying to pass off stunts or you're trying to catch stunts or you're trying to combo block. There's going to be some issues there if the other guy isn't up to par with you, right? It makes you look bad when he looks bad. But all in all, I give Tyler Smith an A. I love that guy. He's a straight shooter. He's not an excuse maker. He's a beast. He's your best offensive lineman for sure. And the Cowboys just need to make sure that as this thing goes along, that, you know, a person like Guyton and a person like BB tend to get better. And then once you do that, you have a formidable, at least left side of your line where you can count on some things, even though you can't quite count on that right now. So let's move on to Cooper Beebe. Cooper Beebe, I give him probably about a C+. So I think he's been better than Guyton. But I think, and I actually honestly think, if we're being honest, Cooper Beebe's been pretty much your second best offensive lineman. He's been really, really good at center. He's been powerful. I think Cooper Beebe's main problem right now is he wants to maul everyone, right? He wants to take you. He wants to put you in the dirt, which I love from an offensive lineman. But sometimes he just needs to hit that guy and get to the second level and get on the linebackers so that your running back has more space to operate, right? But Cooper Beebe is very concerned with sustaining his block. And I think that's more of a coaching point than it is necessarily a player point. Like the coaches are probably being like, hey, when you get on that guy, you need to sustain that block. And he has to protect the front of the pocket for Dak Prescott. So he's probably thinking about that a lot as well. But I think he needs to do more of, hey, I'm getting out there, hit this guy, move him to the left or move him to the right, unless it's a 5-man set, you know, and then kind of get up there in a running game and get to the second level. Now, when it's the passing game, absolutely sustain your block, which is one of the things he's awesome at. He's very awesome at. Once Cooper Beebe gets his hands on you, it's really hard for you to get by that guy. You're not going to overpower him. Once he anchors and sets, the rep is pretty much over. You know, he very rarely gets beat in that regard, which is funny because you would think with a quarterback not receiving as much pressure directly over the center that it would help him. But the problem is, and we're going to move on to the next guy, the guy to Cooper Beebe's right. And I feel like that's blasphemy because I've never called Zach Martin a problem in his NFL career, ever. It's weird. It feels sacrilegious to me. But Zach Martin is a problem right now. And I'm not saying a problem in a good way, right? Because I'll call Tyler Smith a problem, right? And the defense knows what I mean when they say that. They be like, man, we got to line up against this guy all day. He going to whip that ass. I'm about to get hit by this dude all day. It's going to be a problem. But when they line up against Zach Martin, it's a problem for our offense. Zach Martin, for some reason, he's having a lot of trouble. You know, I watched McNeil just take him to school against Detroit. He was not picking up stunts. He wasn't recognizing stunts. He was getting blown off the ball. He was getting holding calls. Like, there was a point in Zach Martin's career where he had more All-Pros than he had holding calls. That was a moment of silence just to recognize the greatness. There was a point in Zach Martin's career where he had more All-Pros than he had holding calls. That Zach Martin, I'm not saying he's gone forever, but he hasn't showed up in the first 6 weeks of this season. So for that, I hate to say it, but I give Zach Martin like a D, man. Maybe a D minus. Like just over failing. And for him and for his standard, it's pretty close to an F, but it's not quite there. He's had some good reps on tape. He had a time where he left the game against the Giants or against the Steelers. I can't remember one of the two, but he had dehydration and he came back and he was whooping tail. So it is still there, but the problem you get after this much time in the league for a player like Zach Martin is it's not going to be there consistently, right? The consistency is what separates great NFL players from good NFL players. A lot of these players are very close talent wise. They're very close, right? Athletically. And any one of them for a play can be athletic or talented enough to make a fantastic splash play. And the way we scout it is we go, if we've seen it once, we'll see it again, right? We can coach that up. If we saw a guy do this once, blow a guy off the ball, give him a nasty move on a route, make an amazing catch, make a great cut, make an awesome throw, make a great interception, athletic play for the sack. If we see any of those things, we know that we can get them again, right? Because the human body can replicate. So we know, hey, these players can replicate these things. The players that are amazing in the league, the players that are awesome, are the players that do that consistently. Now, you don't have to make the best play on the field consistently, but you have to have a high level of play consistently, right? That's what makes you one of the better players in the league and one of the best players in the league. And so Zach Martin has always had that consistency throughout the course of his career, but I feel like now we're kind of getting to the end of that. The Cowboys probably have a plan for that because they do have TJ Bass. And so I think as Zach Martin, if he retires after this year, which he probably should, at least it looks like that right now, if that's the case, then they need to make sure that they thoroughly vet their heir apparent, maybe even draft a person to compete with them and see what happens. So we move on to Terrence Steele, and Terrence Steele has been a flat-out F. I don't care. Like, he had one good game so far this season. It wasn't the Cleveland Browns game. It wasn't the Saints game. It wasn't the Ravens game. I believe his best game of the season was probably the Giants game. The Steelers game wasn't so bad, but for what you invested in this guy, which is about $17 to $18 million for your right tackle, I think he's pretty much failed you. The Cowboys are probably stuck with this contract for at least one more year before they can get out of it with minimal financial implications. But until that happens, Terrence Steele he's been trash, man. I don't like to. I understand that these are all NFL players, right? And so your worst NFL player is better than, most people on the planet, right? There's only roughly 2,500 people in the league. There's about 8 billion people on this planet. So you're saying less than 1% can do what this guy does. But Terrence Steele, if he was our backup tackle, I'd give him an A because that's where he should be. But credit to him, and I'm not ever going to knock a man for doing his thing and getting his money. So he did his thing. He played well when he needed to. He got his money. The Cowboys love giving out some of these contracts early to the wrong people, right? When we're sitting back as Cowboys fans, and I know I'm going off to the right a little bit on a tangent, but bear with me. So when we're sitting back as Cowboy fans, right, we're like, hey, sign CeeDee Lamb. Sign him to a deal, right? Last year, if the Cowboys signed CeeDee Lamb to a deal and they offer him $31 million, which would have made him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. It would have been more than Tyreek Hill. He would have been the highest paid wide receiver in the league. I doubt his team turns that down, right? But the Cowboys slow play this. They think they're smarter than everybody else. But then the stupid mother flyers go over there and give Zeke a deal when he has 2 years left on his deal. They go out and give Jalen Smith a deal when he has 2 years left on his deal. They go out and give Terrence Steele a deal coming off an ACL. They go out and give Michael Gallup a deal coming off an ACL. What are they doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? It's like people who never ran an NFL football team are running an NFL football team. And it's tiring. They talk about Cowboys fans having a lot of apathy. I care about the Cowboys. I'm never going to be one of those fans that are like, I don't care anymore. It could be 10 more years from now of this BS, and I'll still care about the Cowboys just because that's how I fan, right? But I'm also a realist. I'm not going to look at it and be like, the Cowboys are awesome at everything when they're not. I'm never going to tell you that. My type of fan is to be brutally honest with myself first, because someone once told me the greatest lies are the lies that we tell ourselves. Those are the greatest lies. Those are the most damaging lies. So if you lie to yourself, then you're susceptible to all sorts of things. So I'm never going to lie to myself when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Actually, when it comes to anything, but that's not what we're talking about. When it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, I'm never going to lie to myself. I understand what they are. I understand what they're doing, right? And it's frustrating because I feel like if they would bring in a football person, they would have more success at football. But it seems like there's too many other priorities here in this franchise. And I was never the one to be on that soapbox. But over the last 5 years, it's become increasingly frustrating, and it's hard not to be in that soapbox, with everybody else right now kind of saying, hey, man, something has to change, and it probably has to be at the top and starting to the bottom. So, Terrence Steele, bad decision, but this is one of the course of a lot of bad decisions that the Cowboys have made. So, hey, what the hell? And then let's go the extra lineman that I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, TJ Bass. I actually give TJ Bass like a C plus, B minus. There was a game that he came in. I believe it was the game that Zach Martin went out with so it had to be the Steelers game because Zach Martin went out with the cramps and had to get an IV. And then Tyler Guyton also got hurt in his leg in that game as well. So the Cowboys had the shift. Tyler Smith out to left tackle. They had TJ Bass at right guard, and then when Zach Martin went down, they brought Brock Hoffman in Tyler Bass at left guard. They brought Brock Hoffman in at the right guard because I remember him getting a penalty pretty much right away when the guy was freaking hitting him in the head and laying on him, and he swatted the guy away, and they threw the flag 15 yards. But the Cowboys still ended up pulling out the win, so whatever. But yeah, so TJ Bass has actually played pretty okay, just being that rotational person that has to come in last minute. Now, he didn't have the greatest game against the Lions, but the Cowboys are... So, they have Mike Solari as their offensive line coach. So, let's think about that. Like, Mike Solari was here with the Cowboys in the 90s. Bro, it's 2024. It's 2024. If we know about anything in the NFL, it's that it evolves, right? Evolution happens. And it doesn't just happen with the passing game. It doesn't just happen with the running game. It also happens with the way you block up the pass, with the way you block up the run, right? Evolution happens in the NFL at all levels. And for us to just be like, we're okay with this dinosaur coming in here and running our offensive line and acting like it's 1997 and his concepts from 1997 are going to be amazing in 2024. This is part of the problem. This is part of the problem. And I didn't come out here to rant at you guys and really, go crazy about the Cowboys structure. But the offensive line is a microcosm of kind of what we're seeing with the entire team. So now let's grade them as a whole. The offensive line as a whole is a C minus. A C minus. I don't care what way you add up the grades, what way you want to look at it. And I know they tell us that continuity is the best thing for an offensive line. And maybe as the season goes along, continuity will turn out to be the best thing for our offensive line. But man, right now going into the bye, it looks like we have a middle of the pack to bottom third of the league offensive line. And if that's the case, if that's the way our team is going to play, then you got a few decisions to make. I know Jerry Jones came on 105.3 The Fan, said he didn't want to make any coaching changes. Great. You don't want to change Mike McCarthy? Dude, fire Mike Solari. Fire that offensive line coach. Bring somebody in here that's more modern, please. But maybe this is it. maybe the Cowboys are on there telling us with their mouths that they're all in and we're going to be great and we have all the talent here. But behind the scenes, they're going, this is a rebuild year. We're trying to get these guys some experience because as we go here, some of the people that we're playing now, i.e. Zach Martin, i.e. Terrence Steele, might not be long-term solutions. So we're probably going to be replacing these guys in a couple of years. But we can't let the fans know that because then they'll throw in the towel for this season and know that, hey, these guys are just trying to build for the future. I personally think a little bit of honesty would be awesome. But who am I? But thank you guys for tuning in. That's all I got for you guys. Tomorrow I'll probably jump into the other supposed foundation of most great teams in the NFL, which is the defensive line. And we'll grade those guys. Newsflash, probably going to be pretty similar to the offensive line grades. But thank you guys for tuning in. You can hit me up on Twitter at JMillerIYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also hit me up at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You can also hit me up at knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. You can hit me up in the comments below. Any questions, any things that you want me to cover, you can hit me here. You can hit me Twitter. You can hit me via email. I'll take them all, put them into a mailbag, make it a formal segment. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hit the like button if you like the video. Hit the subscribe button so that you know when I'm coming on. Share it with anybody that you want to share with. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm your host, J Mill. J Miller if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.